Welcome back. You're watching The Lounge. My guests, Osei-Agyeman, architect, Akosua, Adomako, Ampofo, academic, Franklin, Cudjoe, Imani, Ghana, and talkative. You were talking earlier on about the preparation that President Mahama had. Well, all of us talked about it, being deputy minister, vice president, 2 or 3 time member of parliament, and so on. But Akufo-Addo, apart from having been member of parliament, foreign minister, has also had many years of preparation, and having failed so many times, has had more opportunity perhaps than John Mahama, who always won his elections. He had never lost an election until this one. So he's had a lot more time following failure to think and reflect,
which is good,
and ponder whether he really wants this.
Well,
and the fact that each time he pressed on means there's something he really wants to do, not just once, but to do. And
but it must be positive.
But
of course, it's got to be positive to do, and to have thought through what kind of people can help him do this, because you're a leader, but that means you're leading people, including a core that will help you to execute, that will excite, energize the masses to act and follow your vision and head in that direction and get as close as possible to the target you set yourself. Right? So who he surrounds himself with, he's had more opportunity than when, say, the president dies and you are shoved in the evening to take over. Yeah. Again, the broken bicycle. He has to control that bicycle. He has the opportunity. He's chosen to jump on the bicycle. He selected the bicycle he wants to ride.
Well,
right?
And he knows.
But like I'm saying,
that is not going to be an easy ride.
No. You see, the difference for me is, I always say that there's a lot of enthusiasm.
And if I may add, I mean, at 72, he's mature. And he's unafraid. And if there's anything, I mean, he would, even at the very beginning, be thinking about his legacy. The legacy cannot be having run and failed 3 times and then having won and not known what to do with it. I mean, it's back to that old song. Now that we found love, what are we going to do with it?
Legacy, everybody leaves a legacy. Positive or negative. I'm sure in your mind you're looking at something positive. What do we accept as positive? I'm sure as of October, the NDC thought what was their legacy was unprecedented. Unfortunately, the electorate doesn't think so.
Did they really think so?
So, yes. So everybody will leave a legacy. And I am not comfortable if you're just going to leave the ordinary legacy. It's out of the question. This is a great opportunity to make sure that we're really out there and moving. I mean, how many times didn't we hear to PNDC that we're ready for takeoff?
We're still on the runway.
We've probably run out of runway. We're still taxiing. The takeoff must happen. And everyone, including the ordinary people, the vulcanizers and the mechanics and the street vendors, must believe that there really is a takeoff and there's actually a change in their welfare. I hear talk about jobs, as if jobs is the end to it. It's not. She made a point about culture and there must be a totality in everything that we try to achieve. And people's welfare or the citizens' welfare must be prime. So if at the end of 4 years we've doubled the infrastructure and people still struggle to move from A to B, for me there's no legacy.
It's a good point to pour some whiskey. So let's take a moment and toast to Johnny Walker, the original taste of whiskey. Since 1820, Johnny Walker has remained the world's #1 Scotch whiskey. and has won numerous awards for excellence. This because the impeccable formula of distillation has been jealously guarded over the ages, thus its distinctive taste. Johnnie Walker comes from an intricate blend of a wide spectrum of carefully selected flavors, giving it that unique taste savored by millions all over the world. So let's toast to the unquestionable taste of whiskey. Johnnie Walker, the whiskey the world knows best. Johnnie Walker, keep walking. Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under 18 years and pregnant women. Yes, Franklin.
I wanted to
I've
say
just got
something.
a couple of minutes to wrap up.
I wanted to say something. We need to now move beyond the person, the persona, to the collective. And in speaking about that, you know, it was Donald Kaberuka, the former African Development Bank president, who I listened to in the Brookings, when he was talking about the ills that basically plague the African government, the African individual. And he said, look, money alone isn't enough. In fact, for a country, if you're attracting foreign direct investment or even domestic investment, money alone isn't enough. There must be that desire to break the policy logicality chain, which means that there must be policy coherence. So as the Venerable Architect again has suggested, and the Prof
you want him to design
seems to be suggesting that there are
venerable.
There are different parts of this. No, I mean, I probably would put him on the spot as well. There are many parts of this conversation that could be geared towards one coherent unit. So even though the attitude of the Ghanaian to sprout buildings all over the place is bad, it has its roots in a regulatory failure.
Yeah.
So how do we, for instance, decide that we want to reduce the deficits that we have in housing if we don't have a corresponding understanding that government should not be interested in just building houses by itself, but actually create that environment, service lands, and allow anybody else to come and build, rather than have some hallowed XTS people or Snoko, or as I heard the last time, Nigerians coming to build for us at prices that were quite absurd. How do we ensure that this whole idea of technical education is taken beyond just erecting technical universities, or indeed changing the names from polytechnics to universities, and then they run grammar courses as usual? I'm not saying grammar courses are not good, but how are we learning the ropes of those who have done it better than before? So for me, I like to see this coordination. And let me just say that in terms of the mantra of economic, development, in fact, the economic wherewithal that we are faced with, some of the retrogressions that we've seen in the economy, the last thing we want to see is a country that still has this commanding, if you like, command control type of thinking. By this, I mean, if we want to develop the country in its entirety, I still think the NPP and the new leadership needs to understand that its promise, for instance, of having each constituency given $1 million must be put in perspectives, because we are the SADA arrangement which was channeling money to a parallel authority. Now, if development is supposed to happen from the grassroots, and here we are going to throw money from the top, invariably what you see is that the very things you want solved, which is, create that equal space for people to take active part in, development, you find a few people hijacking some of these funds. So how we navigate these waters are very important to me. And that's why I say that while we understand there must be decentralization, we must also be cautious not to use another back door of trying to empower people to actually entrench central planning. These are things we need to also be looking at.
Osei?
Yeah.
About bringing to justice those that, so far allegedly have robbed us to the tune of many zeros.
Well, I think...
Should that be a priority? I've got a minute.
I don't think it should be a priority, but we must have a system that is self-correcting. such that probably in 5, 6, 7 years time, it shouldn't be the norm to want to rob the state. Okay.
But for those who already have, should justice
it's part of the correction system.
Be swift and merciless?
Yes, it shouldn't be the focus. But I wanted to just.
But should it be swift and merciless, or should it be?
It should be swift and merciful.
Justice must be served.
Justice must be served.
Yes, justice must be served. I just wanted to emphasize that we're too focused on economics, which bothers me a lot, because our well-being is beyond economics, and 70% of the people who contribute to this economy are in the informal sector, but we never plan for the informal. So in effect, we're just planning for parts of this country and continuously hoping that it will affect the other parts. Yes, but welfare is more than economics. I can say maybe the economy, but not economics. And I wish we had a way to measure the quality of life than just the normal monetary indices that we always have. And then it will help us make progress, because those measurements are quite deceptive, and for a lot of people, it doesn't really mean much, So, yes, there must be justice, but we shouldn't focus on justice. We should focus on a system where there'll be no need to go running after people in 5 years. We must focus on the system, and that is why I think that it is not enough to just run the mill. You must do things that are.
But I would venture to say that one of the most effective ways of ensuring that it doesn't happen again is to demonstrate that clearly.
That you can't get away with.
Yeah, but if your system encourages people to be disobedient, they will. After all, 6 generals were shot. How much more do you want? Okay, so if we cultivate a system where it inherently allows you to be criminally minded, or to be disobedient, or to disregard, you really
punish while you fix the system. The two should go alongside. Should go side by side. No,
and eventually punishment and criminality will diminish.
We should not entertain the thought. And this is a famous quote by a political satirist that I like, P.J. O'Rourke. We should never entertain the thought that government is just like giving car keys and whiskey to teenagers. Not this one, by the way. And then also suggest that if governments were a product, it would be illegal to sell. I don't think we should be doing that.
If government was a product,
what a product should be illegal to sell. We shouldn't do that. And so I think that there must be accounting. And where people are falling short, they should be called to at least to answer questions. It's very
and that will help to fix the system.
Absolutely. Let me just add to the accounting. I think we focus on monetary accounting. We should begin to also look at performance accounting.
Well, if you did work and then it was suggested that you went overboard, you crookedly, dodged the procurement process and then made a fat cut on the deal, and it wasn't even done properly. It's a combination of both performance as well as.
Yeah, but we should focus on the failure of a lot of district authorities.
What I hear is all of the above.
Do your job.
Thank you very much, Franklin, Akos, and Osei-Agyeman. My name is Kwaku. Cudjoe. Have a wonderful evening. It's the end of an era and the beginning of another. See you next week. Good night.
The Lounge, proudly brought to you by Johnny Walker. Keep walking.